What is up, everybody? Today I have some awesome news for, most electric truck buyers, but especially Ford F-150 Lightning buyers. Whether you already got to make your order or you're in the 2023 model year order group, which I would be considered, and probably most of you. Anyway, there's great news about the tax credit. We're going to dive into some production numbers that everybody hit last quarter as far as EVs. Remember, the tax credit phases out in quarters. I'm going to break that down just a little bit, as well as explain how long Ford is now expected to keep the tax credit in place. And it's good news. We did a sneak peek. We didn't hit the limit yet. So I'll explain what all that means real shortly. But before I do, I want to thank you guys. My last video was my first time asking people to subscribe, and you guys pulled through. I really can't appreciate it enough. Yeah, I don't know what else to say other than thank you guys. And if you are new to the channel, I would really appreciate it if you subscribed as well. But again, no pressure. We're here just to have a good time. So diving in, let's do this. So let's back it up real quick. Now, first of all, the 3 or 4 people I'm going to talk about today, we're mostly keeping it to Ford, obviously. We're going to talk a little bit about Rivian, and I want to talk about GM because they're the puzzler. We'll save that for the end. The rest, you can kind of do the math yourself. All these articles and references will be linked in the description if you want to do some independent research, or ask me in the comments. I'll probably answer. Anyways, let's talk Ford for a second. No, let's start GM because they're top of this list, just as far as numbers we're going to go down here. So as you see, quick refresher, once any manufacturer hits 200,000 vehicles sold, they no longer are eligible for the tax credit. It then begins phasing out, which I'll explain that process in a little bit. However, just know once you sell 200,000, your customers can no longer claim the tax credit. So as you see, Tesla has blown by this by over almost 900,000 vehicles. So they're long gone. GM is long gone because they've been selling the Spark for quite a while. They've been selling plugins and hybrids, which all count towards this for a while. So they hit these numbers a while back. They are 71,000 over the limit. Ford, next on this list, was the one to keep our eyes on. As you see, they still had around 40,000 vehicle sales to go. Everyone was predicting that they would hit that 40,000 this quarter and that this tax credit would be starting to phase out. However, we got very good news. Let's move on to that right away. So according to the latest report, electrified vehicle sales, now this is including plug-in hybrids as well as EVs, so the Mach-E, the E-Transit they've been selling lately. So all of those sales count towards this number, which is 13,772. Nowhere near the 40,000 mark. So doing the quick math, they still have about 25-ish, we'll say 25, maybe 28K to go. And now, will they double their EV sales next quarter? Maybe. They really could come close to that. It really depends on parts. The whole reason they didn't hit numbers, and numbers across the board are down, is because of the parts constraints, parts shortage, chip shortage, all around chaos for manufacturers. So therefore, it's been really hard for people to sell anything, let alone EVs. So with that stat in place, we can't just expect them to hit 13,000 again, or they're probably going to do higher is what I'm trying to say. If this part constraint continues through the next quarter, well, it means less vehicles get out there. So it's kind of like a win-lose sort of thing. Like, yes, the tax credit might stay around longer, but less people would be getting vehicles anyway. So it kind of defeats the purpose. Anyway, that's where we stand here, and it's great news, and I'll tell you why right now. So I reference this graph about every time I talk about the tax credit, and luckily for us, it literally lines up to exactly our situation. So what this looks at, just pretend where it says 2018, it actually says 2022, and where it says 2019, it says 2023. So the finish line indicates that that's the 200K sold mark. So let's go through the 3 scenarios. Pretend Tesla says Ford as well. So what we have is scenario 1. They hit it at the beginning of the quarter. Well, there's a whole quarter phase out after the vehicle is sold where the full tax credit stands. Now, that means if they were to hit it this quarter, if Ford were to hit it, no matter, and we'll look at scenario 2 at the same time. So whether they hit it in January of Q1 or March of Q1, there's still going to be exactly 1 quarter after they hit that where they will phase out the tax credit. And that's for the full $7,500. Now, scenario 3 we see is probably what we're sitting in. Now, it doesn't matter where this finish line says the beginning of Q2. Now, I don't think we'll hit it at the beginning of Q2, but probably at the end of Q2, assuming F-150 Lightning production really gears in like it's supposed to, we should probably see them hit the 40K, which gets them to 200,000. But what that means is we have a whole extra quarter where we can have the full tax credit. What that means is what we're looking at from August all the way through September. So if you are getting even a 2023 Lightning, there's a chance you can still claim the full 7,500 tax credit. Now, it could get even better if they don't hit the number until, let's say, July of Q3, because then we go up to the end of the year getting the full tax credit. Now, that's best case scenario, and it only happened, honestly, so here's the best case scenario. The parts shortage hits us a little bit harder. We go through it just a little bit more. Ford just misses the 200,000 mark, and then they hit it at the beginning of Q3, and then that gets us all the way to the end of the year with the full tax credit. That's best case scenario. However, even if this is all hit, and let's say they hit it already, the phase out is still in our favor. There's a tax credit available literally for our case. Again, let's look at scenario 3 here. We would be getting some sort of tax credit all the way up to Q3 of 2019. And that's probably the case, that's the safe estimate. And what that means is starting in Q4, there's going to be a switch where it will then be cut in half. So you can't get the 7,500. However, you'll get 3,750. And then it goes for 2 quarters. So up to Q1 of 2023. And then we start, or at the beginning of Q2, we then start getting a half again, which is only 1,875. But that's nothing to shrug at. That's that's your charger paid for or something. That's a good discount still, or you know what I mean, a tax credit. So all in all, good news. And now just a quick refresh. Remember, all EV sales count towards this. So whether it's the Mach-E, the Lightning, or the plug-in Escape, or all the other plugins, the e-Transits, all those will count, which is why, again, I think we will probably hit that number Q3. Again, everyone thought we would hit it this Q2, we will hit it. And everyone thought we'd hit it in Q1. Again, we didn't. That's the good news. All right, hopefully that all makes sense. I'm always happy to chat about it. If you want the full breakdown of how the tax credit works, I will, of course, link that. I've done a total deep dive to explain how you get each tax credit, what you need to buy, what your qualifications are. All that's in another video. I will say I probably reference us hitting this in this quarter in that video. So it just be that more optimistic while you watch the other video. All right, you get what I'm saying. Now, let's talk Rivian and GM before we end this video. GM EV deliveries. Now, again, as we just looked at, they're doing great overall. They had them. GM still obviously a powerhouse. Don't get me wrong. However, they're not leading EVs right now, and far from it. So I hope they succeed. Don't get me wrong. Again, I'm a fan of anyone trying to enter the space. I think competition will help drive down EV costs. It's important that we get these costs down so more people can adopt them and more options. Obviously, right now, there's not a lot to choose from. And especially, there's not a lot to choose from that doesn't cost you $80,000 or more. So again, I really hope everyone succeeds just to get more EVs and drive waves and they become more affordable for people. So all that said, let's talk the Bolt and Hummer delivery numbers. Now, it's upsetting. If I were in line for a Hummer, it kind of scares me for what we're about to see for the Lightning, because if you remember Q4 of 2021, so reported last December, they delivered literally one Hummer. And so you think, okay, they've had 3 months. They must have kicked it into overdrive and really rocked out a bunch of EV Hummers for all the people who ordered one. Well, they made 99, so there's a total of 100 Hummers released. So I don't know. I think that number's low. I think they must be really finding it's hard to make these, maybe. It doesn't look good from an outside without some explanation. So that being said, the Chevrolet Bolt, I mean, is not doing great either. They made a combination of the Bolt EV and EUV, which is the slightly bigger one, is a total of 358 for a grand total of 457 EVs being delivered. Now, that's not great numbers. It says here that there's over 65,000 reservations for the Hummer right now. So at this rate, you're not getting one. I mean, they really need to step it into overdrive, and I hope they do. So that being said, I think it's cool to look at Rivian's numbers here, which again they're not hitting what they said they would. I think they said their goal was to get to 20,000 a quarter, or maybe that was a year. But they produced 2,553 vehicles, which this is their first time delivering vehicles. Oh yeah, and I should say half of that was actually delivered. So they've manufactured a total of 2,553, and they've delivered 1,227. Now, I think that's great for your first quarter. You know, it's not. Hopefully they're taking their time and doing a good job is what I'm saying. And I haven't heard much complaints. I'm very active reading on the Rivian Facebook group, and everyone seems thrilled. So I don't see, like, you know, the Tesla part or panel gap fiasco going on there. In fact, the opposite. I see people bidding well over $110,000 in the aftermarket to get their hands on one of these things. So I think it's a great first step, and if they only improve from here, then Rivian is really going to be even more of a contender. Now, they did just raise prices, so if you don't already have a reservation for a Rivian, man, I'm sorry for you, but hopefully the dual motor's okay, because that's probably all you can afford at this point. I know I'm in that boat if I were to get a Rivian. So, but it's cool to see them actually cranking down and getting some numbers. They crushed GM, that's for sure. Some other quick things. I was impressed to see Hyundai, I think, delivered over 5,000 of the Ioniq 5s. That's pretty great numbers. And then right along with it, because Hyundai and Kia are under the same umbrella, they also did around 5,000 or 6,000 of the Kia EV6, which is great because that means they've done a total of 12,000 EVs this quarter. They're trucking along, so they're going to be a real contender here. And they're cool vehicles, so I'm happy to see them getting in more people's hands because they're at another fair price point. I'd say it's still a little expensive, but okay, I'll stop rambling here. I hope you guys found this video great. Hope you guys found this video informative. I think it's great news, so that's it. Bye.